Hello, 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 y'all. It's Thursday Thoughts. Just putting my phone on Do Not Disturb, getting ready to bring our Instagram folks in with us, and we are live. It is Thursday Thoughts, and as with every Thursday Thoughts, we started off with something we're grateful for. And today I am just giving thanks and being really grateful for peace of mind. Peace of mind. Not having a worry, not having things that press on you so much that it is just weighing you down. So I'm very thankful for peace of mind. So I like to ask you, what is something that you're thankful for on this Thursday? There's always something. The fact that you opened your eyes this morning and you're here right now in the present moment is a gift and a blessing, something to be thankful for. And when we find time in our lives, hey, Guinevere, thanks for joining. And when we find time in our lives to identify and to count our blessings, it really makes a huge difference in adding to your fulfillment in life and how you feel, being more positive, having a better outlook, being more optimistic. And it starts with counting your blessings of all the things you have already, not taking things or people for granted. For granted. Now, I have to tell you all, I'm so grateful that my good BFF Guinevere is on with us tonight because here in Michigan and where Gwen lives, they didn't have one tornado. They had 5 tornadoes that touched down. And the damage, like she shared with me, the damage that was done, it was just catastrophic. It was really, really terrifying. So I'm so thankful to God that God covered her, blessed her, kept her protected, and yeah, all of that. So I'm just so grateful for that. And tonight, y'all, we are talking about communication. Communication. And I think we really don't give enough focus and concentration, effort in our communication skills when we communicate with others. Because it's an art to this thing, y'all. It's an art to this thing. And this week I was in attending Michigan Council of Women in Technology has an Elevate program, and I co-lead it with Jennifer on Wednesday evenings. And so Jennifer gave a really, really great presentation on communication skills, and she brought up some really, really key points. And some of what she talked about was wrapped around when you're communicating. In her example, it was when you're communicating with senior level leadership. Senior level leadership, tongue tied, y'all. Senior level leadership, say that really fast. They don't want to know the in the thick of it minute details. They want to know clear and concise, what's the issue, what do I need to know, and do you need me to do with something? To be really simple, like don't send your executives paragraphs of information, bullet points, straight to the point. Now, in your back pocket, have in your back pocket all the details in case they say, well, what's the data to back that up? Or where did you get that information from? Always have that in your back pocket. So she was talking about communication, and as I listened and I was hearing what some of the participants were saying, it came across to me that this would be a very interesting and befitting topic to bring to Thursday Thoughts. Because how many times have you been having a conversation with someone and you think you're having the same conversation, but it's really different? And I can give you an example. When I was going to, I was working out in a studio with some other ladies, and it's so funny because you could be thinking you're talking about the same thing, relating to the same thing, right? And so, where the conversation is different in this example, we might have been talking about dancing. I'll give you an example. We might have been talking about dancing, right? And so, in my mind, they're like, yeah, I love to go dancing. And I'm like, I love to go dancing too. I love to dance. Well, I love to ballroom dance and then the third. And then so it was some younger generation folks, and they were talking about, how they love to go dancing. In my mind, I'm thinking of dancing in one way. And so somebody came to me and they was like, well, when they were talking about dancing, they meant this type of dancing, like that's their type of dancing. And I was like, I can see where we're having the same conversation, but two totally different perspectives on something. And so when the guy in the room heard, the younger girls saying they go dancing, they had this idea of, okay, he could relate because they were, his age group. And he was like, oh, well, that generation, when they go dancing, they're typically doing a lot of grinding or, all this twerk stuff, right? But when the older ladies, hence me, when we talk dancing, we're typically not talking that. Like we're typically talking about there is going to be some space between us and whoever you're dancing with. And we do ballroom. And so when I would say, like I went dance, they were like, what you mean? Like you dance, you be out there like that? I'm like, when you say out there like that, what do you mean by that? Again, they're thinking the other kind of dancing. So I say all this to say, listen, communication being clear and simple when you're talking is so important. It's so important. Like choose your words carefully and then look at the person that you're communicating to, right? Keep in mind who you're communicating to. Is there an age difference? Because again, based on what generation you come from, they can receive information and it means something totally different than maybe how you intended. So it's good to always understand who's your audience. Understand who's your audience. And then have a clear idea of what you want to say and be impeccable with your words. I talked about this book before, the book of the Four Agreements from Don Miguel Ruiz. And the very first agreement, that's called the Four Agreements, the very first agreement is be impeccable with your words. And it's so important that we learn how to use our words effectively. Take the emotion out of what you're trying to convey, because when you bring your emotion into it, it'll cloud the message. And sometimes I know it can be difficult. It can be difficult because I go through those challenges sometimes too. But that's when we have to catch ourselves and just take a breath. Take a breath. Take a pause. So, again, we're talking, how do you communicate effectively? How do you get your point across? What do you want to say? What is it that you want the other person to get out of what you're saying? That's the important thing. It's kind of like when you have a meeting at work. Most meetings, if they're effective, you have an agenda. You have, this is the purpose and goal. And the reason why you have a purpose and goal or an agenda when you get ready to go into a meeting is because you want to make sure it's organized. You're not just rambling and you're able to address the issue, the whole purpose, the reason why you're in the meeting. The same thing when you're trying to have a conversation with someone, right? Oftentimes, I can remember when I was younger, if I was dating someone and if I didn't see him, I may be so angry that when I finally get him on the phone or whatever, I might be like, where you been? I this, that, and the third. But what I really want to say is, I missed you. And when can I see you? right? I missed you, and when can I see you? Another thing when we talk about communication is that it is a two-way street. It is a two-way street. So when we're talking and we're trying to convey the message that we want to say to this person, when it's time for them to engage in talking, it's important that we stop, we anchor ourselves in the moment so we can hear what they're saying, that we're actually listening. Do some active listening. And active listening, believe it or not, is very difficult to do at times because we're so used to thinking all the time. And I think that it's almost in our nature that when people are talking, we're thinking, okay, how do I respond? We're in like, I want to solve something mode. How do I respond? How do I solve this? Right. But we need to take a step back and not do that, not do that at all. In fact, when somebody is talking, we really need to focus in on what they're saying and how are they saying it. If we see somebody is upset, we need to take that into consideration when they're giving us the message, when they're talking to us. Pay attention to their body language. Our body language says so much. How many times have you all sat in a meeting with somebody and it may not hold true all the time, but in most instances, sometimes if you have somebody with their arms folded, sometimes I would have my arms folded because I was actually more comfortable sitting with my arms folded. But sometimes people can interpret arms folding as, a person is being kind of closed off, or they may be a little suspicious about maybe what you're saying. Or if you have people who, are kind of looking off to the side, they're not really looking at you, or they hold the head down and they're not really giving you eye contact. Or when they talk to you, you know, their their voice goes a little low and it may crack. So communication, you want to pick up on, is this person shy? Do I need to, you know, ask some open-ended questions, right? So I can get more information out of them. So I want to ask you all, when you're communicating, do you find yourself trying to really take the time and figure out, okay, like, who is this person I'm talking to? What's their communication style? Or how do I need to communicate with them? Right? Some people have really direct personalities. So they want to get the information direct. They don't want the whole, I've been around the mulberry bush, now I'm gonna get to the point. Some people are very straightforward and pretty blunt. But then some person that you may be talking to, what if that's not how they receive information good? Maybe they're the type of person that, they may need a little bit more information, maybe not be so blunt. So all these things, when we talk about communicating, good communication skills can improve your relationships. It can improve how effective you are at work. Likewise, bad communication skills. Have you ever talked to somebody and you swear they didn't hear a word you said? A word you said. Or they read more into what you said using words that you didn't even use. You're like, I totally didn't say that. They took something out of context. That's why when you're engaging in conversation, it's so important that you clarify, you paraphrase. So if somebody is saying something to you, you just want to make sure you're understanding what they're saying to you. So repeat back what you think you heard. Because sometimes we put our own words in and we substitute our own words when somebody is talking to us. And that could be, a false narrative that we're feeding in there. So just taking the time to get clarification. There's nothing wrong with saying, okay, so this is what I heard you say. I heard you say, X, Y, and Z. And then you go, okay. And then if you're engaging with somebody, you need to let them know if you're problem solving. Then you want to go through those questions of asking more. Ask more clarifying why questions. Well, when this happened, Like, well, why did that happen? Or when this happened, what did that do? So we have to really start taking more time with our communication skills. Hey, thanks for joining, y'all. Thanks for joining. So, what are some tips that you all use to have good communication skills with others, to really communicating, getting your thoughts across to the other person? What are some tools or techniques that you use? And the other thing is, how comfortable are you all with having difficult conversations? Maybe having a difficult conversation with someone at work. How comfortable are you? If you're a leader and you have to give somebody feedback that they're not performing, how comfortable are you with giving them that feedback? What are some things that make you uncomfortable when you have to communicate? What are some topics that you're uncomfortable with talking about? How about that? Put that in the comments. Are there any topics that you're uncomfortable talking about? And in this context, we're talking about if it's at work. Any topics you're uncomfortable, if you have to talk to a peer or a colleague about something, any topic you're uncomfortable with talking about. I can tell you as a leader, many years ago, I had to talk to someone who reported to me because other people was telling me that they had a very foul body odor. And initially, I was just like, oh my goodness, how am I going to have a conversation with this person? Because they're a nice person. And I'm certain they don't know this. But I'd had other leaders come to me like, you need to talk to your person because it's offensive, because it's coming over like into my cubicle, a situation like that, right? So I had to go to the person and I did it. I believe you can have the most difficult conversations as long as you come from a place of being compassionate and of being honest but respectful. So how I delivered the message was I asked the person, can we meet? It came in a meeting. It was private, closed off. And I let them know out the gate. I was like, I am uncomfortable. I just want to let you know I'm uncomfortable with the topic that I have to discuss with you, but it's something that we do need to discuss. So I want to, put that out there. And so it was a woman and she was like, okay. And so I was like, it's been brought to my attention that you have a very strong odor that is offensive to others. And, she was like, what? And I was like, on the inside, y'all, I'm not playing. I was praying, Lord Jesus, just let me be able to be compassionate and, because I don't want to offend anybody. And I told her, I said, I don't want to offend you, but as your leader, I have to share this with you. I was like, you know, we're going to need for you, to address it. Do you know any ways? Can you think of anything you can do that can help you, address it? But I had to bring it to your attention because it's being brought to me by, multiple people. And I want to just share with you in confidence. And she was like, she appreciated it. And after that, after I had that conversation with her, we had no more, complaints about the foul odor. She had taken care of it. So I don't know what the deal was, don't know. But when we have to have those difficult conversations, we have to do it with compassion. Um, any other topics that anybody has had to work on or have that's challenging? And while we're thinking about that, I can share with you that, you know, when you are having a communication, if you feel yourself getting upset, you want to disengage from the conversation until you can be calmer. Because when we communicate and we're upset, we're in our feelings, if you're not a person who has a high level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence, those emotions can really come out and really corrupt the communication that you want to achieve. And once words come out, you can't take them back. You can't take them back. And words carry power. Even when you're upset, words carry power. And so you don't want to do any unintentional damage to the other person. So think about that as we again talk about communication skills and being intentional with our words, saying how we really feel. For example, when I was younger, oftentimes if I was dating somebody, if it was things that they wanted to do, sometimes I would just sacrifice, my own enjoyment. If they wanted to go off and do, I don't know, maybe watch a sport or whatever, I'll be like, oh, sure. But on the inside, I wasn't like, oh, sure, because low key, y'all, the only sport I kind of sort of watch and haven't watched in a while is basketball. I can't even keep up with football because by the time they throw the ball, I don't even know who got it. It's so many people running around. I digress, I know. Point I'm trying to get to is at if I had just communicated to the other person, here are some things that I like to do. I really don't like doing that. I'm really like bored, like doing this. Then, we could have probably had a better time, a better relationship. So it's just important that you speak what your truth is for you and letting people know, because then you give them the gift of knowing, okay, this is who this person really is. And do I want to entertain that or not? So when you communicate and you communicate from the truest form of who you are, you give people an opportunity to really see you. And you give yourself an opportunity to really be your most authentic self. And when you can be you and your most authentic self, then people see you and they gravitate to the real you. And you're like, you know what? I no longer have to wear that mask for that certain thing. I can just be all of who I am. And so, again, going back to what we're talking about, communication skills, how we talk to people, how we listen and try to listen for understanding, not listening to respond, is really critical as well. Understanding the personality type you're speaking to, that's going to be critical, right? Because if I'm communicating to a person who really enjoys conversation, they want to hear everything about how your day went, right? They want more descriptions of how your day went. But if you're communicating with someone, let's say maybe it's an introverted person, oftentimes they don't want to have a lot of dialogue because it can be very exhausting for them. And it's not that they're not interested in you, but it can be very exhausting for them when it's a whole lot of dialogue. So understanding, personality types plays into how you should communicate with that person. And understanding that, it helps you tremendously, especially in the workplace. It helps you tremendously when you can pinpoint, okay, that person, is more direct. That person, not so direct. Some people avoid confrontations, right? They don't like to deal with it. So when you do need to have a conversation that can be appear to be maybe confrontational because you're addressing an issue or a concern, when you can do so in a way that A, it's no emotion, and B, as much as you can, don't try your best to avoid the blame game, pointing out, well, what you think the other person did that was wrong. Stick to the objective and stick to like the topics and take away any blame, wrongdoing, finger pointing, and just try to stick to, here's the problem. Let's discuss how we're going to solve it. Because once you start saying, well, so and so was at fault here, immediately people get on the defense, even if they really was at fault. And the first thing you want to do when you're problem solving is solve the problem. You can remediate on the back end to determine, okay, well, how can we prevent this from happening again without even really pointing the fingers? It's how do we prevent this from happening again? And let's put some processes in place and then communicate out, right? So again, we're talking the importance of communicating, not assuming people know your thoughts. So whether you're talking about your best friends, your family member, loved ones, if you're in a relationship, find out what their love language is or their appreciation language is, right? And remember that that person needs that type of communication and validation. If you're talking in your personal life, it's the love language. What's their love language? Is it touch? Is it time? Is it service? What's their love language? And then you try to communicate to them in their love language. And then, verbally let them know that you appreciate them and love them. And then when you're talking about in the work environment, they do have appreciation language, right? And you want to know how your team want to be recognized. I have some people on my team and they don't like public recognition. They like one-on-one time more so than the public recognition. So again, understanding all the different facets of communication, the skills that's required for communicating effectively, taking your time to hear the other person. I mean, really hear them. So that means don't try to multitask, don't have the TV on or scrolling through your phone. Give somebody your undivided attention. So if you're out with a loved one, you're at the dinner table, put the phone down. Don't look at the phone. Don't check and scroll. Have some conversation in the moment because the present time is all we really have. This is the only thing that's really real right now is this moment. Because an hour ago, that's already gone. And tomorrow isn't here yet. So right now is the most important time. And what we do right now in the present moment is critical. So let's take some time and be with the people that we love, but be there present, full attention, having some conversation. Take the time when you're communicating with people to recognize, what type of personality type is it that you're dealing with. And then understand there's a certain communication style for almost every personality type. And then understanding what is your own personality type, right? What's your baseline? I mean, you have some people that are aggressive, you have some people that are assertive, and you have some people that are passive aggressive, right? And so you just have to be cognizant of who you're talking to, their style, and your style. And always strive to be as clear as possible because that's what makes the most impactful when we talk about communication and talking to others and understanding, when somebody is going through something, not taking on their baggage. How many times have you all talked to somebody or somebody's been in a really, really bad mood and you're like, who are you talking to? Like they just like got the most crappiest attitude. What I've learned is that when people have a bad attitude and they come at you on some negative stuff, it ain't even about you, which is the second agreement from that book, The Four Agreements from Don Miguel. It is Don't take stuff personally. So if you got somebody and they're coming at you sideways, or they got an attitude about something, you have to kind of step back and go, okay, this is not about me. This is something going on with them. Because most people that are fulfilled and happy with themselves, they don't attack other people. They don't have any need to. They're too busy trying to handle keeping themselves satisfied and fulfilled. So when you do come across people that are, got a bad attitude, this, that, and the third, understand that hurt people hurt people. That is so true. And don't allow hurt people to hurt you. Don't take it personal. Don't entertain it if you don't have to. And recognize that that person has something in them that they need to work through. And I realize when you're in corporate environment or a work environment, sometimes you have to learn how to deal with some of those personalities, and you're forced to work with people. You can still get respect. I mean, it may not be the ideal working relationship, but being able to communicate to get what you need from that person so you can get the job done is a very important skill set. And it can be done in most cases. But recognize that when people have bad behavior, oftentimes it's because they're hurting and it's not because of you. So don't take it personal. With that said, I'm going to conclude this Thursday Thoughts. We have Mother's Day coming up this weekend. So to all the moms, to all the sisters, the daughters, the aunts, the neighbors, the school teachers, to anyone who have shown nurture and love to others, who have been a step-in mom, right? Mothering others. It could be a neighbor. We salute you. We love you. May God bless you, because being a mom is no easy task. It's a full-time job, and we appreciate you. So to everyone, to the ones who still have your mom with you, give her a hug, let her know you love her, appreciate her. To those of you who your mom may not be with you, I pray that you will have fond memories of your mom. Think of some of the most beautiful times that you all shared together, and reflect back on her legacy and the blessing that it was to have her as a mom. And with that, I will say a good night and thank you all for joining. Take care.